flaky website, or flaky browsers rather, and ISO information inside your HTML. At that time, I built something that was closed source and proprietary that I worked with for close to 18 years for a lot of different customers, and they seemed really happy with it. Took a little break and then came back and noticed that WordPress had come up with a new version of their software back in November, because I noticed the website was completely updated, the version was there, and all of the various multilingual versions of the website were synchronized. I thought, well, perhaps I'll be able to drop my own closed source product and move on to start using their product instead, because it's just a little bit easier, you know, as a regular developer. But I just found out very quickly that it was not doing a lot of things that I do in my closed source version of the content. If you look at their website here, one sec. Sorry about that. If you notice, the WordPress site does support multiple languages, but these languages are all leading you to different alternate websites. This is, I believe this is the Arabic one. This is going to go to ar.wordpress.org, and obviously this is not ideal when you're dealing with a website and you're selling things commercially. Website owners want things to be under a single domain. Guys like Google and Bing and so forth, they want as much under a single domain as possible. When you split things with subdomains, you're actually decreasing the amount of importance the website is getting with regards to ranking in the search engine, so you don't want to do that. So I decided if it wasn't possible in anything that I was aware of, I'm still not aware of anything else that's out there that does what my software has been able to do for me for the last 20 years, I might as well write it, bring it up to date, and open source it, and provide it to anybody that was willing to use it or interested in using it. It supports any language in the world that is UTF-8 now, which makes things a lot easier. You know, the browsers support it very well. It supports bilingual, bidirectional, which means some character sets are used both left and right and left. You're looking at Arabic, some versions of Chinese, Japanese can be bidirectional. Arabic is right to left, but it really depends on you as the end user, how you're going to need to use it for your audience. There are websites in China where they're largely left to right, but the same character sets are used right to left, so this is a bidirectional situation. And those are primarily websites that are using things like very old traditional newspapers, online, this sort of stuff. So I had to make something that was very flexible. This turned out to be Custodian, and I began real work on it back in March or April of this year, and I'm ready to really publicly release the first full version of it. There is no admin system with this product, just so you understand. It is also not a translation tool. It still takes a human being to translate what my wife would say, which is, I left something in the boot. She's from South Africa. When she says something like that to me, I know that that means she left it in the trunk of her car. It's English, but it's not English. So you still need a human being in there to make these translations. If I put something out there and then you try to read it in Japanese because I got it from Google, it's not going to read very well. You still need a human being to translate. So that's what you're going to put into the system. Let's have a look here. This is the basic setup. You just have a database. You have a potentially unlimited number of languages which are supported. The content can be stored in all those languages or missed in certain languages. Certainly, if you build a website like FutureShop, you're going to build the first version in English, and then you're going to build the second version in French because you're in Canada. You need that language to be supported. But the second version of that website can't go live until you've completely filled out everything in French and made it available. With a product like Custodian, you can have both the English and the French running simultaneously under the same URL with the same templates, with the same database, same developer. Nothing has to be split out. Everything is contained within the same group. The application is capable of understanding and making a self-determination as to what languages are supported by the user's browser. So if the user has a browser that supports French first because they prefer French, and the website is built in English, but there are some portions of that content available in French, but we'll use Chinese for example. The website is being viewed by someone as Chinese set, as their primary character set. This is the traditional character set Mandarin. And the database has all the English there and a couple portions of the Chinese. It builds up an array, and then it decides on the fly which versions of that information need to go out to the website because it's available. They would like to see Chinese, but where we can't supply them with the Chinese content, we'll supply them with the default language of the website, which might be Russian, Italian, French, whatever else it is. And then it just pieces it all together. Custodian is also capable of doing script inserts, so you just have to write a tiny little piece of code like this, put it into your HTML, and then it can call a whole chunk of code that you'll write for yourself on the side, which doesn't interfere with your HTML. I have some users, one of which is here. She likes to dabble in her own HTML from time to time, and by separating up the code from the HTML, it just makes her life easier. She doesn't have to look at a big, huge blob of logic and programming, and she can get right to what she's really interested in. You can also do template inserts. This is an unending, never-ending nested template situation where you might have a footer, and inside that footer there might be something that's reused over and over, but not just in that area of the particular site. So it could go on and on forever. And inside each one of those nested templates, you could have nested programming calls, which could also have nested multilingual content. So there's really no end to it.
Sorry, one more minute. One more minute.
One more minute after. So the process is basically dealing with nested. It calls the index file. It goes through the process of pre-parsing the templates, determining if there's any language information needs to be inserted directly on that page. It moves on to looking for templates to be inserted. It checks the inside of templates, looks for programming, looks for content management things that need to be inserted, and just on and on and on. It has three primary tags. Three little pieces of HTML that you really put inside the HTML that make reference to all the other programming that's gone on here. There's a CCMS DB call, which calls the database and then puts in the appropriate content in the language that is supported by the person's browser. There is a CCMS lib call, which calls outside libraries, so it allows you to be able to insert any kind of program that you want at that spot. It's a little tiny tag. And CCMS TPL, which is a template insert. So any standard header, any standard footer, any column, any repeated content that you use over and over throughout the site that the client can see or not, it doesn't matter, you could simply have it reinserted. So besides those three tags, there's two additionals. One's a preloader. So instead of having a single page that comes up that might require 50 different database calls to get all the appropriate information, it stores all that stuff inside of a quick array that it builds on the fly. That array might be 50 or 60 different pieces of information from a database for many, many supported pieces of language, but it will quickly build it into a tiny array so that you only have one database call, and then it grabs everything that's supposed to be inserted into the templates, fully nested all the way through in that one single array. The final one is CCMS dir, and this is necessary for bidirectional content. When you have content like Chinese, Mandarin specifically, I'm thinking of, that may or may not be left to right or right to left, because it's up to the end user. You're going to build a website for someone, they're going to tell you their primary audience wants to read it one direction or another in this case. You need some mechanism for being able to track that, so you can